Hey Moto Academy, my name is AJ Catanzaro, and if you want to be a professional dirt bike rider, this video is maybe the most important 20 to 30 minute video that you'll ever watch. What I want to do is first of all tell a little bit of a story about my time spent at the Lawrence compound training with Jett and Hunter, really as they were both coming into absolute prime time. I had the opportunity to train a full preseason and the entirety of the Supercross season with Jett and Hunter, the season that Jett won a 250 Supercross championship, Hunter won his regional Supercross championship, and then they both went on to win the outdoor championships that year, Hunter in the 250 class and Jett with a perfect season in 450. It was also when Jett was making the transition from the 250 to the 450. So the video that we're going to break down today is the first footage that was released. This was filmed by us of Jett on the 450 for the first time, or one of the very first times that he ever set foot on this 450. What I want to do for you guys is point out what he's doing, why it's important, and why everybody watching this video can easily do it. And I think it's also important to reference why riding this way will be the future, at least for some extended period of time, of how people will ride in the sport. And the good news for you guys is there's still time. There's still very much an opportunity, because if you watch on the TV right now, there are not many people that have adapted to the new style yet, because most people in the 450 class are my age, 30 years old, 28 years old, 32 years old. And let's face it, they've made some adjustments and they've made some evolution in their riding, but it's very difficult to make a complete change and full-on update to your riding when you're that deep into your career. You're starting to see a couple of 250 guys come in. Cole Davies is a very, very good example. But even the 250 guys, they're old enough to where they didn't learn early enough and haven't adapted to the new riding style early enough. So there's very much an opportunity. I'm going to break down where your focuses can be, why it's not rocket science, and in fact, there's no secret to it. It's very, very simple things. The secret, in fact, is how Jett and Hunter think. I could cover that in another video. This video will be strictly technique-based and riding-based. So without further ado, let's hop into the video. Hey guys, before we get back to this video, Element, I'm drinking it today. I drink it every day, morning, night, whether I'm working out, whether I'm just hanging out, whether I'm podcasting. Has all the electrolytes that you need. Nothing that you don't need. No sugars, no artificial flavors like the other junk has. I'm a chronic cramper, so for me, having the proper electrolyte powder to drink throughout the day is critically important. I will get Charlie horses to the point where I can't even walk and my whole body will seize up. Go to drinklmnt.com/AJCat330 where you can try 8 of their flavors for free with your order. They're a huge supporter of our channel, huge supporter of the podcast as well. Show them some support. You can't buy it in stores, so make sure you go to that link, drinklmnt.com/AJCat330. Okay, don't want to interrupt right off the bat here. I'm not going to go completely 100% in depth from attack position from the ground up. If you want to watch an attack position video, click the link somewhere. Click this video floating in the screen and you can watch a full breakdown of attack position. I'm going to hit some key points and some key things that I think that Jett is doing, Sexton is doing. There's a handful of other guys Cole Davies are doing that nobody else has really adapted to just yet. And the first thing I want to talk about is roll speed. What roll speed is it's getting off the brakes early so you can flow through the first part of the corner with more momentum. When you watch a lot of these videos through, a lot of these shots through, like right there, just listen to Jett's bike. He lands the double, he lets off the throttle, and then he does a little burst of throttle before the braking bumps. And what that does is it keeps the bike light where everybody else is braking for the corner. One thing that is really important to allow him to do this, and you'll notice this is a common theme as you watch this video, is that Jett commonly stands deep into the corner. Mostly to the 50% mark in the turn. When riders are trying to sit early in the corner, it means they have to brake harder, sit earlier, and it kind of just speeds up the whole process and everything feels rushed. When you watch Jett come into the entry, he stands strong in the attack position, keeps that bike light, actually soaks it up to him almost BMX style, sits right at that 50% mark. And you'll notice that as a common theme as we go through the videos. Even the right-hander here, he doesn't sit until he gets to that tree, which is right at the 50% mark. Standing in that attack position, nice and strong, feet tight. And keep in mind, these ruts are, he's the only one out there right now, but the ruts aren't shallow. These are deep ruts to where most people would look at the ruts on this track and say, oh, absolutely, this is where you gotta get the foot high and tight and up and out of the way. But that's not the case. In this left-hander, same exact thing with the roll speed, getting off of the brakes. In fact, using no rear brake here whatsoever. And just a very gentle 5%, 10% acceleration going through the bumps. The bumps are there because that's where everybody else hits the brakes. This is at least a theory that I have. All of the braking bumps are in that one area because there has been an era of riding to where everybody has been taught to charge in as deep and as hard as you can and to brake as aggressively and as hard as you can in one spot. So we have now tracks forming where there are really, really big braking bumps all in one small little section. I predict that with this new wave, we're going to have riders getting off of the brakes earlier, carrying that very gentle acceleration over those bumps. But eventually what that's going to cause is it's going to cause not that many braking bumps before the corner. So then eventually 10 years, 15 years down the road, it's going to go back to riders needing to drive in harder and brake deeper. I believe that everything comes in cycles. Jett is doing things that are not brand new by any means. If you look back and you look at Stefan Everts as a great example, there's been many guys, and I don't even want to start naming names because I don't want to leave people out, that have ridden with maybe one of these things, two of these things, three of these things. But the new era is really kind of just piecing all of it together, the roll speed being a really, really important piece to that. Second thing I want to talk about is the upper body coming out of the corners. And I've been talking a lot about this at class this year where I have this shot freeze framed right here. Is you'll notice as Jett accelerates, he's much more vertical with the upper body when he's coming out of the turns. The reason for this is because he's trying to keep good posture to keep his hips in an anterior pelvic tilt. So we could pull that up onto the screen, maybe show what a spine looks like in a posterior pelvic tilt versus an anterior pelvic tilt. When your hips are in the correct position, it allows the lower body complete freedom of movement, aka the bike complete freedom of movement, without your upper body having to move. So that's why when you watch Jett, he looks very posturally upright, and he doesn't, if he makes a mistake with the lower body, it doesn't usually cause the upper body to make that mistake. Now, even Sexton has the tendency, I think maybe because of how strong he is, or maybe he gets nervous sometimes, he will hunch down and kind of hunker down into the bike and almost turtle shell himself a little bit. And that's why you see Sexton having made those mistakes where that front end will just kind of go out all at once. Very, very rare for Jett to make those mistakes because he is very adamant about keeping his hips in this position and remaining upright, like you see in this pause shot here. It is really important for you guys. That is muscle memory. If you watch Jett sit down, if you watch Jett walk, he has very good posture all around. See a nice little acceleration going in before the braking bump, standing to the 50% mark. Very upright when he sits. Even that's a great example. So mistake, that was me filming there. So he must have just got nervous as he was riding by me. Standing 50% mark. His hips end up inside of the bike for a split second. Right here on the entry, which means that he weighted the inside peg by accident just a little bit. So that's why it caused the bike to fall underneath him just a hair. But even when that mistake happens, watch Jett's head. His head still doesn't move, and that's because his core is really, really engaged, keeping that upper body still. It is such a key, I'm telling you. If there's any secret, that is the secret. It is all in the hips for Jett. It is all in the hips for Hunter. And these guys both look very similar when they sit down in a corner. A lot of these corners, by the way, where you see Jett putting his foot out. The next stage of evolution, and I've been talking about this for quite a while, is that you will not need to put your foot out in that situation. So you see him standing until the 50% mark. There is actually no need at that last 50% of the corner for him to put his foot out. That is simply habit. Don't need to put a foot out in that left-hand corner as well. Can it work? Sure. But it's an extra 2 movements, foot going out and foot coming back in, that you actually don't need. So those of you watching this, especially if you're a bit younger or you're a parent that has a younger rider, don't be afraid to teach them how to ride with both feet on the pegs nearly 100% of the time. Standing nice and deep. Listen, I'll be quiet for a second. Just listen to his entry. No rear brake at all. A lot of coasting, right? Where I hear so many parents talk about how they don't want their kids coasting. If you stand deep into a corner, coasting is okay. That roll speed a lot of times is a coast through the first part. This corner was really deep, really sloppy. Just watch the upper body, watch the posture when he sits. You could see it was wanting so badly to pull him down inside of the bike, but he was still able to keep that core engaged, keep that upper body upright through. This section is so cool right here. Those braking bumps, by the way, are much bigger than what they appear from this shot. One thing that you can pick up on as well, next stage of evolution for Jett here, and this video is almost 2 years old. Jett has done a very good job of improving his footwork from the time this video was shot. So if you watch this clip right here, I'm going to press play here. Watch that outside foot. So he goes from the rear brake and then leaves it on the arch of his foot because he didn't take the time to return it back to the balls of his feet. So I'll play it through one more time. He's on the rear brake here. He dragged the rear brake too late. He then returns it right here, but he doesn't really return it. Look at where that foot peg is on his foot. So that is technically incorrect. And the reason that that's something you don't want to do is because if you're on that part of your foot on the foot peg, you're not able to apply that pressure down into the outside peg as much as you would like. And two, and probably even more importantly, you've now eliminated that ankle flexion. So if you're hitting any acceleration bumps coming out of the corner, you're going to really feel that jarring effect from that acceleration bump driving through your body, as opposed to that outside ankle being able to help absorb, especially because he's coming into a jump here. He had to roll the double in because he didn't have that preload and that ankle flexion to be able to pop him up. That is something that Jett has done a really good job of working on since this clip. And it became that much more important when he got on 450s because he had to control that bigger bike. So making sure you take the time. And Jett's excuse, by the way, was that he didn't want to take the time. He felt like there wasn't enough time for him to bring the foot back into position. There's always time to bring it back into position. And it's something that you just need to prioritize with a little bit of conscious thought. So watch the outside foot here. He doesn't have it on this foot because that's his shifting foot. He's leaving it in the same gear, so it's a non-issue. It's on the balls of his feet, nice and tight. Let you guys listen to that entry again. Acceleration, right? Very, very, very light acceleration. And what that does is it allows Jett to carry so much mid-corner speed, so much exit speed coming out of the turn without having to really give it any crazy burst of throttle. Another thing that allows Jett to do is he doesn't really need to use the clutch much to get that bike to go. The only time Jett is using the clutch is to just gently help feathering that clutch to just apply smooth throttle control so that that wrist doesn't get jerky by accident. But it's not like a clutch dump like a lot of riders tend to do. And again, look at the upper body here exiting the turn. So as soon as he sits, I mean, look at how upright he is. One thing you might catch on to is when you're watching this video is that there are some clips where Jett sits a bit far back on the seat. Keep in mind his bike is set up to be able to allow him to do that a little bit, but it's something you can experiment with on your bike setup. Usually I teach sitting one hand width from the front, but there's certainly times like in this corner when he sits, look at how far back he sits on that seat. Because it's only about a 90-degree turn right here. Standing nice and deep, both feet on. Not even sure if he did sit there. So even in that right hand clip, that was a mistake as well. Watch the foot catch and drag for a second. But he brings it back to the foot peg pretty quickly. And again, watch the upper body. So even in a mistake, by the way, where this corner is very deep, his upper body stays centered to the bike. That posture, aka the hip position when you ride, is huge, huge, huge. I don't care if you're a beginner level rider, or if you're wanting to go pro, or if you're wanting to be the best pro. Good posture, correct hip position is going to be what creates consistency and safety as you start going faster and faster. That was a little mistake that was due to not enough lean angle for how much speed he had. So a lot of times right here, we'd be on front brake, front brake, front brake to control that lean angle. This rut had a hook right at the end. So right here, that rut has a tighter hook right at the end. What you need to do in situations like that, it's tough here because that rut wasn't fully formed, is you do use a little bit of front brake just to get the bike down a little bit more into more of a lean angle so you stay in the rut. He's going a little too fast, not quite enough lean angle, so when he hits that abrupt little hook at the end, it stands the bike up even more. And what he does to try to combat it and fix it kind of only makes it worse. He pulls the clutch in, and it really hangs him up there. So that's where a lot of people would use the clutch to kind of force that situation. But believe it or not, the clutch is probably just going to make matters worse. So just a good example of Jett is not superhuman at all. What I just talked about are not superhuman abilities. It's not top secret information. It is not rocket science. In fact, in the 20 minutes that this video took you guys to watch, there was really only 2 or 3 key things that I spoke about. Any parent can recognize it in their rider. Any rider beginning to learn it can recognize it in others, and that's where it starts. Being able to watch footage like this, break it down, see what the pros are doing right, see what's working for them, see when they make a mistake, why did that mistake happen, what caused it. When you can recognize it in others, you can begin to recognize it in your own riding, and eventually you begin to recognize it in your own riding in real time while you're out there. And then you begin to actually recognize as it's happening almost before it's happening. So when maybe a lot of you guys now make a ton of mistakes, it's very frustrating. It feels like you're always just one step behind when you're out in the track. You can really become a little bit more proactive and creative the way that Jett rides, the way a Cole Davies rides. And my prediction is that we'll see everybody riding this way in the next 3, 5, 10 years. And there is plenty of opportunity. Because if you watch and turn on the TV right now and watch 250 and 450, there are not many guys yet who have adapted to the new style. I think the new generation coming in, there will be more and more and more people riding that way. But it's not too late to make the change. There's no better time than now to start changing the way that you're riding. If you guys have any questions at all, you can access me directly inside of the Moto Academy app. You can direct message me. You can send in riding footage for us to analyze and my coaches and myself to analyze. It's an amazing community of people all focused on the same thing, just trying to level up mentally, trying to level up on the bike. And if you want to improve, no matter what skill level you are, in that app is absolutely the place to do it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to watch the raw version without me interrupting the whole thing, we'll link that somewhere in this clip as well. Go check that out if you just get annoyed with me talking like crazy. Yeah, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought. Hope everybody's doing well. And shoot, I'm going to go catch a flight because Moto Academy is on tour. I'm going to California. Okay. See you later.